We are now just weeks away from putting seed in the ground. Much of that crop will be exported, yet uncertainty looms large with those tariffs. Will they or won't they happen? It's been a roller coaster of emotions in recent days.
Boom, here it is.
Here it is, and the markets are reacting negatively.
Straight ahead, we look at the impact of what tariffs could mean, but are they happening, or is this just a negotiating strategy?
International partners introduced retaliatory tariffs on many ag products. We'll tell you how some local farmers are reacting.
We try to wrap our heads around where things stand. Plus, want to understand the latest irrigation technology? Nebraska Extension works to create a network of master irrigators. Plus, from a snow to a warm-up, what's next? Kyle has our weather outlook straight ahead. It's time to grow. Was another trade war over before it started? Thanks for joining us on NTV's Grow. I'm Steve White. It's been a roller coaster the last couple of days when it comes to these tariffs. Will they or won't they happen? Whatever we know, it is sending ripples through the ag markets, and it could have some major implications for Nebraska. NTV's Emma Leake has more.
I'm Emma Leake here in Axtell. After the announcement of retaliatory tariffs on ag products including soy, beef, and corn, local farmers are paying close attention to the Trump administration's next steps. On Tuesday, President Trump imposed 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada and an additional 10% tariffs on existing regulations on China, totaling 20%. In response, Canada and China immediately retaliated, with some experts calling this the beginnings of a new trade war. United States Meat Export Federation CEO Don Hellstrom says he does not want a drawn-out confrontation.
And it remains to be seen exactly what the potential impact is short-term. Of course, long-term, we're very hopeful that we can work through this and get through it with minimal impact on our exports.
The Chinese tariffs include 15% tariffs on American agricultural products like chicken, corn, and wheat, and a 10% levy on soy, pork, and beef. They are set to go into effect on Monday, March 10th. According to the Nebraska Farm Bureau, in 2024, Nebraska's top agricultural exports were beef, soybeans, corn, and pork, with China, Mexico, and Canada being top customers, purchasing 95% of Nebraska corn exports and 90% of soy exports. Mark McCaig, Nebraska Farm Bureau president, says that the ag sector becomes a target in trade conflict.
We know that that's what happens. They go after the ag sector because I think that's one of the quickest ways to really affect change.
The American Soybean Association stated that they don't support the use of tariffs and urged the Trump administration to reconsider the tariffs and potential upcoming ones. Meanwhile, Nebraska Corn Growers Association President Michael Dibburn remains cautious about the use of tariffs.
We're going to make it known that and continue to make it known, we have in the past, that the detriment that could happen in the ag industry from retaliation on these tariffs.
On Wednesday afternoon, the White House announced a 1-month exemption from tariffs on automakers from Mexico and Canada. The tariffs on China were not mentioned. Emma Leake, NTV News, Axtell.
Are we in a trade war, or is this just a negotiating tactic? Susan Littlefield from KRVN and the Rural Radio Network continues our coverage.
Jim McCormick is joining me. He is with agmarket.net, and I'll tell you, the markets reacted. I mean, we knew tariffs were coming. We knew today was the day, and boom, here it is.
Here it is, and the markets are reacting negatively. I'm very concerned about this, folks, because the reason being, historically, when tariffs go on, they don't come off. Think about it. That tariff that President Trump put on China 6 years ago on certain products, that is still in play. So that is something to be concerned about. You know, a lot of people are hoping this is a negotiation tactic, and I hope so too, because when everything gets expensive, it slows down the economy.
I'm Alex Makovica for the Rural Radio Network. Let's take a look at some factors shaping today's commodity trade. And to do that, Jeff Peterson with Heartland Farm Partners in Lincoln joins us. Let's just take a step back and look at some big picture things impacting specifically the corn and soybean markets. There have been a lot of headlines. How do you shape that up?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Alex. We've got all kinds of headline risks. The tariffs are in there, but let's dig past that. Currently, we know that the funds, they're still long, and we'll get a new commitment of traders report this afternoon that will update us on that. In addition, everybody's watching very closely what's going on with the export sales, because what we know is we still have about a little bit over 300 million bushels of corn that has been bought by Mexico to be shipped out. And then on top of that, China has about 56 million bushels to be shipped out yet on the beans that they bought. Everybody's watching that very close to see whether or not we see any cancellations. I don't think we'll see any cancellations with Mexico. China, it wouldn't surprise me to see some cancellations.
If a trade war escalates, Nebraska stands to be impacted as much as almost anyone. The Clayton Yeutter Institute at UNL weighs in. The center is named for the former U.S. trade rep. The institute has a lengthy statement that says, in part, the administration is signaling it intends to make trade an ongoing, high-profile part of its agenda, connected to overall economic policy. And those decisions will impact business, farmers, consumers, the economy, and the trading system. The new U.S. tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, and Canada can be expected to erode the export competitiveness of Nebraska's ag sector and decrease its access to export markets due to trading partners' retaliation, the Yeutter analysis found. Increased U.S. tariffs on crude oil imports from Canada and Mexico, for example, would increase the cost of all refined fossil fuel products in the U.S., while tariffs would also affect fertilizer prices, since the U.S. imports most of its potash from Canada. Experts say the negative economic impacts are expected to be worse than the 2018 China trade war. Nebraska's economic well-being is closely connected to the global marketplace. The state is one of the top 5 egg exporting states with $10 billion in sales abroad. That's about a third of our total egg receipts, and more than half of the Nebraska soybean crop is sold outside the U.S. We continue with more perspectives now from our sister station in Iowa.
So they're putting on a 10% tariff on soybeans and a 15% tariff on corn, forcing corn and soybeans to cost 10 to 15% more. That means those Chinese consumers of U.S. corn and soybeans will buy less from us. That's going to put downward pressure on the prices here in the U.S.
Iowa farmers have been here before. When Trump imposed similar measures in 2018, China responded with retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agriculture, causing billions in farm losses and prompting the president to soften the blow with emergency federal aid, sending $12 billion in relief to farmers that year and another $16 billion the next. But farmers aren't holding their breath for help this time around.
Iowa farmers are in for tough times. We've seen this before. Under the first Trump administration, there were tariffs in 2018. That led to significant revenue losses. And then even after government aid, it reduced revenue to 1.1 to 1.7 billion.
Trump acknowledges it's a hit, but says farmers just need to hang on.
It may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great.
Do farmers have to bear with this for a while? Yes, we do. On the other hand, will this make them better? For the vast majority of folks, the answer is no.
And economic experts say the solution isn't that simple. Americans can't consume it all, and producers need the global market to unload their crops.
For us to just sell within the U.S. would actually constrain our market and force us to shrink how much we produce because, no, the country does not use as much corn or soybeans as we create.
Now, even if the tariffs are eventually lifted, experts say Iowa farmers may never get all those customers back.
China was the largest buyer of U.S. soybeans at the time, a third of the crop. China cut back, and this is a key point. It substituted to Brazil and Argentina. So this is something that's very concerning for Iowa farmers, that there are alternatives out there.
For now, Trump is telling farmers to enjoy the ride.
Our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, Have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen.
Nick Alhaj, Iowa's News Now.
Thousands of recently fired USDA employees headed back to work, at least for now. The probationary workers were let go as part of the Trump administration's goal of decreasing the federal civil service sector. But Wednesday, the Merit Systems Protection Board issued an order that will reinstate some staffers. A special counsel who reviewed employee claims said the layoffs appear to be illegal, and the Protection Board agreed. Now, as a result of the order, the employees are able to return to work immediately for at least a month and a half. The board will now look closer at the legal questions surrounding the mass layoffs. The Agriculture Department will have to prove to the board it complied with the reinstating process. Later, how you can help with both water quality and quantity by becoming a master irrigator. And still to come, we're here on the Fauner Park campus. Yeah, it's all about agriculture these days, but that's also rooted in history, and we'll find out more. Last week we found out about UNL Taps. Now here's another way to stay connected to the latest in irrigation technology as you can become a master irrigator. Here in Nebraska, we're certainly at the epicenter of irrigated agriculture and producers learning how to better conserve and manage that water resource. Chuck Burr from the University of Nebraska, Nebraska Extension educator. Create kind of a new program calling it Master Irrigator. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Master Irrigator started in some other states a few years ago. Basically, very in-depth training experiences in terms of irrigation management, not only from a producer standpoint, but a regulatory standpoint and a private industry as well.
When you look at the state, I mean, we've got literally millions of irrigated acres in this state. There's a lot of ground, especially under pivots, and managing that water, that's one of our major issues.
It is, and on the eastern end of the state, we deal with high nitrate levels in drinking water, and some of that's due to over-irrigation. The western end of the state, we're running out of water, so we're trying to manage what we do have and be more sustainable with the supplies we do have.
So you're kind of building out this program. Like you said, it's been done in other states, but you kind of want to have the Nebraska solution, not necessarily duplicate word for word what another state's probably doing.
Yeah, exactly. We're planning these design summits across the state this year to bring producers in and private industry, NRDs, NRCS, government agencies. What do we need in Nebraska? What topics do we need to focus on? What kind of a delivery method? Would you rather do it virtually, learn at home for part of it, and then in person? Do we need to go on some tours to look at different types of equipment or talk to different producers that try different things in terms of managing the irrigation? Yeah, just trying to learn what we want to do so next year we can come out with a program designed for Nebraskans.
No, there's some producers I know who will probably jump and say, hey, sign me up. I don't care what's in it for me. I'm going to learn something, and they'll see it from that perspective. But some other producers probably saying, well, that sounds like a lot of commitment. What can you say might be in it for them?
Yeah, not only the in-depth training. This typically is about 30 hours worth of education. In other states, there's been maybe some points given for an EQIP application through NRCS, so maybe move you up the bar in terms of getting some funding for some new irrigation management equipment, maybe switching from a furrow package to a pivot or change a sprinkler package or something like that. Maybe some discounts on equipment to maybe free trial for a year on one of your fields, just maybe a new soil moisture sensor. Try it out, get comfortable with it before you go ahead and adopt the technology on your whole farm.
And here at Raising Nebraska, we are days away from the Sorghum Symposium.
On March 12th, we have a very good event that will have all things sorghum. We'll be discussing different things from 45Z, getting agronomy updates, and then an update from National as well. So it'll be all things sorghum.
So you're having a day-long event here at Raising Nebraska. Are people going to want to go online and register, and they can probably find out more there as well, right?
Yes, the best way to register is through our website. It's on the homepage at the bottom or under the events tab. If you could register ahead of time, that way we know what to prepare for food, but the event is free to attend, and we encourage everybody that can attend to be there because there'll be a lot of good conversations.
Certainly, we hear a lot in the state about corn and soybeans, and those are great, folks. But on the sorghum side, is there a lot of interest, and do you think there's some good topics that you guys will be discussing that day?
Yes, there will definitely be a lot of very good topics. We're going to cover something that's kind of new to the space, which is human consumption. That's increasing in demand quite a bit. And then 45Z has become a very big thing for sorghum. It's an incentive to have sorghum in ethanol plants, basically.
Yeah, it's that next kind of generation of biofuels, and kind of, do you see some potential for the industry to develop that direction?
Oh yes, definitely, especially with the low CI score and everything that's becoming kind of a big deal. Sorghum fits great in that space, so I think that'll be huge for the future of sorghum as well. And then we will also have somebody from AgriAbility to come talk with us as well.
Well, thanks, Christine. Make sure to go to nebraskasorghum.org to find out more. Weather's been up and down. Our Grow Weather Outlook is next.
Well, this week's drought monitor came out and looks pretty similar compared to last week. Still pretty dry here across the region, although it was certainly nice to see some moisture in the forecast this past week. Take a closer look now at the state of Kansas, where the no drought category now stands about 22.5%, abnormally dry. About 77.5%, both of those about a 5.5% reduction compared to last week. So it did get a little bit drier. Moderate drought still stands about 24.75%, the same compared to last week's report. Still no severe, extreme, or exceptional drought across the entire state of Kansas, which is certainly good to see, but still could use some moisture out there. As far as Nebraska goes, no change compared to last week. No drought, still about 1.61% precisely, using the other 98.4%. In the abnormally dry category, 90.75% still in the moderate drought. Still have 47.75% of the state in severe drought. Extreme drought still stands roughly 8.36% precisely. Still no exceptional drought. Still could use plenty of moisture across the state. As far as temperatures go for the month of March, or the remainder of it, expecting relatively above normal temperatures for all of Nebraska as well as all of Kansas. Certainly nice to see after kind of a chillier end to last week, but has started to warm up here this weekend. March precipitation, as far as that goes, looks pretty normal for Nebraska, most of Kansas, maybe seeing some drier conditions towards the southwest part of Kansas. Otherwise, looks pretty normal overall. As far as the next 3 months go, be tracking those temperatures again. Pretty normal for all of Nebraska, most of Kansas, maybe the southwesternmost sliver there of Kansas, looking at a little bit above normal temperatures. And as far as the next 3 months precipitation goes, do have dry conditions expected for a good chunk of Nebraska and Kansas. The eastern parts of the states of Nebraska and Kansas may be closer to normal, we could see, although this next week looks pretty slim as far as precipitation goes. Your Grow Almanac here for the week ahead. Normally see a high right around 51 this time of year, 28 the normal low. The week ahead running a little warm at 65. In fact, tomorrow we're likely going to be in the 70s for quite a few of us. The week ahead average low right around 38 for this time of year. And here is your Grow week ahead, 77. How about that number for our Monday, kicking the week off on a warm note. Does get a little bit cooler by Tuesday, but a dry cold front it will be. Temperatures again closer to normal, and those temperatures kind of bouncing around some of the 50s and 60s towards the end of the week. Overall, pretty warm week. Actually could see our next system arrive towards the tail end of the week, Friday into Saturday. Maybe some rain, possibly some snow, so keep an eye on that. And of course, the cranes, it is that time of year for them to reappear. Our Grow proverb, there will be no rain the day the crane flies down the creek. We might have several days like that here over the course of this next week. Well, that is a look at your Grow Weather Report. Stay tuned next week when once again it'll be time to grow.
Long before the state fair showcased agriculture, the Fauna Park campus has deep roots in the livestock, especially the equine world, as we'll find out when Grow returns. Much like rodeo, horse racing is another sport with deep roots and ties to Nebraska agriculture in the equine world. The folks at NTV's Good Life explored that and much more as they learned about Fauna Park.
Welcome to you, Carol, and to you, Ronnie, as well. You are in a quite a nostalgic place of the 230 acres of Fauna Park, but Fauna Park in and of itself is a rather historical place. When I got the sort of the unexpected call to come up here and say, hey, do you want to come up to Fauner and eventually be the CEO? It was a bit of a hard sell to my bride, my wife. She's a veterinarian and had a very good practice going in Oklahoma. But I said, honey, there's some low-hanging fruit there that I know we can make a difference, you and I together, but certainly it's the community, and the community will give us the support that we need, the support I need, and the support Fauner Park needs. And I'll be very honest with you, on a national scale or a national scene, thoroughbred racing is shrinking, it's getting smaller, but I knew, I've been around the block when it comes to horse racing for over 40 years, I knew what that Fauner vibe was here, and I knew the passion that the community had, and I knew there would be good support to help us through the tough times. Well, I had no idea we would get casino gaming, and that's been a savior.
Next week, we'll have highlights from that Sorghum Symposium and National Egg Week, now just a couple of weeks away. And every week is Egg Week right here as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.